Hi students. So once you have finished signing in for the first time to TinkerCad, you should get a page that looks like this. We're going to find this blue button up here and click on it and click on 3D Design. There are some other things you can do with TinkerCad, but I'm not going to teach you those right now. But feel free to go and explore those other two options, circuits and code blocks, later. We're going to click on 3D Design. Looks like the internet is a little bit slow this morning, so we'll be patient. Once the design loads in, you will be looking at a blank, we call it a work plane. Sometimes people call it workspace or design plane. There are different names for it. TinkerCAD calls it a work plane, as you can see right down here. And so the first thing I want you to do is just play around with the shapes. And you can just come over here and look at the shapes in the gallery, and you can click and drag one of those shapes out, and there it is. Now you can move the shape around by clicking on it and dragging it around. You can move the shape higher by clicking on that arrow, and if you get it floating up in the air like that, it'll make a little shadow, and you can hit the D key for down and put it flat back on the work plane again. Now let's go grab another shape. This time I'll grab a cylinder, and I'll bring this one out, and I'll put it right next to this shape. So the idea here is that you use these shapes to build objects. Maybe you want to make a design of the floor plan of your house, or maybe you want to create a spooky Halloween scene, or maybe you want to design a car or a bicycle or some other device. You use these shapes and think about the shapes that are in a design. So let me show you what you can do with shapes. So right now I have two shapes. I can move them each independently, but I can take these shapes and move them so they're kind of overlapping, so they're kind of fitting into each other, and then I can highlight both of them. Now the easiest way to highlight two or more things is to click and drag and make a little red rectangle that touches both objects. It doesn't have to go all the way around, it just needs to touch both objects, and you'll see both objects highlighted. You can also click on one shape, hold down the Shift key, and click on the other shape, and that will also highlight both objects. Once you have both objects highlighted, you can then click up here on this button called Group. Or if you like keyboard shortcuts, you can always see the keyboard shortcut there. It's Control G. And so we'll click on Group and watch what happens. Now, instead of two separate objects, those objects have combined into one, right? Now watch this. This is kind of cool. I'm going to grab another object. This time I'll grab a sphere. And I'm going to put this sphere out here. But I'm going to change the color of the sphere to a whole color. That means it's going to be a cutout. So I'm going to click on the object and then click up here on whole. And then I'm going to select both of these objects. Remember how we did that? You can either drag and make that red rectangle selection tool touch both objects, or you can click on one, Shift, click on the other. Now when we go to Group, up here our Group tool, Watch what happens. We have actually cut out the sphere shape out of our first shape. Now, if you want to take a look at this, there's a cube up here in the top left-hand corner, and you can grab any part of that cube and move around and see your object from a different position, right? You can zoom in. If you have an object and you want to make it as big as it can be on the screen, just hit the F key for fit, and it'll zoom in as big as it possibly can. So there's how you use the objects to cut each other out to make different shapes. Like, let's say that over here on this edge of my object, I wanted to have a curve. So I can actually grab these two hole shapes that are already colored, and I can drag one of these out, and I can put it right into the edge here, and then I'm going to select both objects, and then I'm going to group them, and there we go. Now, let's say that you put some objects together, and then you decide, I don't like the color. You can always click on that object and change the color. You can also make the objects transparent so you can see through them. That's really handy if you're building small parts or there's pieces behind it so you can see through and see how they fit, or see how far into an object you've cut out. Let's say you put objects together, but now you want to take them apart. Again, you don't like that. So here's what you do. Click on the object, select it, and then you're going to go up to this button up here at the top called Ungroup, and click, and that will ungroup the last object that you had. I kind of like this cutout cylinder, but I'm going to click on the object again. I'm going to ungroup it again, and I'm going to get rid of this sphere. I don't like that, so I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to hit delete on my keyboard, or I could click up here and click delete up here on the menu. All right, now I can go back, highlight both objects, and group again. One of the new features of TinkerCad now that sometimes you'll get error message and you just need to wait for a little bit. One of the new features of TinkerCad is when you drag an object out, let's say I want to use this roof shape. I can put it flat on the work plane, or I can drag it and place it anywhere else. That brown circle there will tell you where it's going to go. You can put it around the edges of objects or flat on the work plane. So I'm going to put this roof, I'm just going to put it right up here on top and let it go. And then you can see temporarily it shows you this green, shows you the plane or the height or the level that it was placed on. So you can just click off. And then I'm going to go up to my cube and I'm going to spin around and take a look at this. Now if you want two objects to line up along the edge, there's a tool for that called the alignment tool. If I click these two objects, again I'm using my red selection tool, and it doesn't look like it got the other one, so let's try that again. So I see right now my internet is dragging a little bit, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click back on my home page, go back to TinkerCad home page, and I'm going to force TinkerCad to refresh my design, and then I'm going to click on Tinker this in the design. You can see the design that I have here, and that will open it up, and it should have everything refreshed. Okay, there we go. So now I can move this here, and what I was going to show you is I'm going to use the cube to surf around and take a look. If I want to line these two objects up, I'm going to highlight them both. I'm going to go up here to the Align tool, or you can do the keyboard shortcut L. And I'm going to align them so that they're lined up the middles with each other. Boom. You can also line up an object. Let's say that this object, I'm going to resize it by grabbing the handle. See that? You can resize an object by grabbing one of the side handles, or you can grab one of the corner handles and resize two parts. You can even grab the top handle and decide how tall you want the object to be. I'm going to make it a little bit thinner. I'm going to highlight both of these objects. And now I'm going to align this object with the other side. So if I go to my Align tool or click L, now I'm going to click on the other dot. And you can see it previews. It kind of puts a little ghost image of where that object is going to go. If I want to put it in the middle, it's going to go here. If I want to put it over here on the side, it's going to go here. And then these other tools, the other alignment tools, will make it align along a different perspective or point of view. And we can also spin it around and align it in the middle this way or to the edge. Anything you want to do. So I've kind of given you the basics. Let me slide this object over. I'm going to hit the down key, the D, and put it flat. I've kind of given you the basics of what you can make. I'd like you to play around with TinkerCad and just experiment with putting objects together. If you'd like to try to make something, maybe you can try to make a ring, or maybe you can make a dog food or a dog water bowl, or a coffee mug, or if you are really into it, you can maybe even try to make a design showing like what your house looks like. You can kind of try to build your house from the outside and put objects together to create what that looks like. Also important to note, and this is the last thing that I'll tell you in this lesson, is you can change the name of it always gives you kind of a funny name to begin with, but if you click up there, then you can type in, call your design whatever you want. I'm going to call this My First Design. You might want to call it, I'll hit return to lock it in. You might want to call it Practice Page or Practice Design, something like that. So that will end our first lesson. Explore, have fun, design. The cool thing is that anything you design here in TinkerCad, you are able to later, if you have access to a 3D printer, you could actually print this object out so that you could hold in your hand the object that you just designed. Better quit. Thank you.